The security guards were already at his desk, hands folded, waiting. Marcus Thompson had exactly 10 minutes to pack his things and leave the building. His manager wouldn't even look him in the eye as she handed him the termination letter. After 3 years of never missing a deadline, of staying late when others went home, of pouring everything into this company, he was being let go. And standing in the doorway of the executive suite, watching it all unfold with an expression he couldn't quite read, was the billionaire CEO herself, Victoria Chase. Before we continue with what happened next, if you love stories about kindness and the power of human connection, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Sage Stories and hit that like button. We share these stories because we believe the world needs more compassion, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's find out what Marcus did that changed everything. Marcus had been working in the marketing department of Chase Industries for 3 years. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it paid the bills and gave him health insurance for himself and his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. Ever since his wife passed away from cancer 2 years ago, it had just been the two of them against the world. Emma was his everything. The matching friendship bracelets she made them, the terrible jokes she told at breakfast, the way she still asked him to check for monsters under her bed even though she insisted she was a big girl now. Every decision he made, every hour he worked, every sacrifice he endured, it was all for her. That morning had started like any other. He'd made Emma's lunch, complete with a silly note on her napkin like he did every day. He'd dropped her off at school, watching her backpack bounce as she ran toward her friends, her laughter floating back to him. He'd gotten to the office early, coffee in hand, ready to present the campaign he'd been perfecting for weeks. The presentation had gone well. His boss had nodded approvingly. Victoria Chase herself had been in that meeting, though she rarely attended department presentations. He remembered feeling hopeful, thinking maybe this would finally be his chance to move up, to give Emma a better life. Then, just before lunch, his manager called him into her office. Her face was pale, her hand shaking slightly as she slid the paper across the desk. Budget cuts, she said. Restructuring. Nothing personal. The words barely registered. All Marcus could think about was Emma's upcoming birthday, the small party he'd been planning, the medical bills still trickling in from his wife's final months, the rent due in 2 weeks. He'd walked back to his desk in a daze, and that's when he saw them. The security guards. The protocol for immediate termination. He had 10 minutes. As he began placing his few personal items into a cardboard box, a photo of Emma, a coffee mug she'd painted for him, he noticed Victoria Chase still standing there, watching. She was younger than most billionaires, maybe in her early 40s, known for her sharp business tactics and her ability to turn struggling companies around. She'd bought Chase Industries 5 years ago and transformed it into a powerhouse. People either admired her ruthlessness or feared it. Marcus took a breath and walked toward her. His colleagues had gone silent, watching, probably expecting him to break down or lash out. Instead, he extended his hand. She looked surprised but shook it. He looked directly into her eyes and said, "Thank you for the opportunity to work here. I learned a lot, and I'm grateful for the experience. I hope the company continues to succeed." His voice was steady, genuine. There was no sarcasm, no bitterness, just honest gratitude. Victoria's expression shifted, something flickering across her face that might have been confusion or respect. She nodded slowly but said nothing. Marcus gathered his box and walked out of the building with his head held high. In the parking lot, he sat in his car for a long moment, letting the reality sink in. Then he pulled out his phone and started searching for job listings. He had to be strong. Emma needed him to be strong. That evening, he told Emma they were going to have an adventure. Money would be tight for a while, he explained gently, so they'd have to be creative. Instead of her birthday party at the bowling alley, maybe they could have a special picnic in the park. Emma had looked up at him with those big brown eyes, so much like her mother's, and said, "That sounds even better, Daddy. We can invite the ducks." And just like that, she made everything okay. That was Emma's gift. She found light in everything. The next few weeks were brutal. Marcus applied to dozens of jobs, went to countless interviews, but nothing materialized. The savings account dwindled. He started driving for a rideshare service at night after Emma went to sleep, his neighbor watching her through the baby monitor. He picked up weekend shifts at a warehouse. He never complained. He never let Emma see him worried. But late at night, alone in the kitchen, the weight of it all sometimes crushed down on him. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, he received an email that made no sense. It was from Victoria Chase's executive assistant, requesting a meeting at her personal office downtown. Not at Chase Industries. Her personal office. Marcus's first thought was legal trouble. Maybe they thought he'd taken something. His hands trembled as he typed a reply confirming he'd be there. He arrived 15 minutes early, his only suit freshly pressed, his shoes polished. The building was elegant, all glass and steel. The assistant led him to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. And there was Victoria Chase, but she looked different somehow. Less severe. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "I need to tell you something," she began, and Marcus braced himself. "That day we fired you, it wasn't about budget cuts. It was a test." Marcus stared at her, not comprehending. She continued, "I've been running this company for 5 years, and I've become successful by being calculating, strategic, sometimes harsh. But lately, I've been wondering if I've lost something important along the way. I started testing people, watching how they react when everything falls apart. Most people curse, threaten lawyers, storm out. You thanked me." She stood and walked to the window. "I had you investigated. I know that sounds terrible, but I needed to understand who you really are. I learned about Emma, about your wife, about the 3 jobs you're working now. I learned that you volunteer at Emma's school when you can, that you pay your neighbor in homemade dinners for babysitting because you can't afford cash. I learned that despite everything, you're still kind." She turned back to him, and there were tears in her eyes. "My father was like you. He was a kind man in a world that often punished kindness. He died when I was young, and I think I've spent my whole life trying to prove that kindness is weakness. But watching you, I realized I've been wrong." Marcus didn't know what to say. Victoria continued, "I'm offering you a position. Director of Culture and Values. It's a new role I'm creating. Your job will be to help me rebuild this company's heart, to remind people like me why we're doing this in the first place. The salary is 3 times what you were making, full benefits, flexible hours so you can be there for Emma." She slid a contract across the desk. Marcus looked at the paper, then at her. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because in your worst moment, you chose grace," she said simply. "That's the kind of person I want to learn from. That's the kind of person I want leading this initiative." That night, Marcus took Emma out for ice cream to celebrate. She asked him why he was smiling so much, and he told her that sometimes when things seem darkest, that's when the light finds you. She nodded seriously, like she understood something profound, then got chocolate ice cream on her nose and they both laughed until their stomachs hurt. Over the next year, Marcus transformed the culture at Chase Industries. He implemented kindness training, created mentorship programs, established support systems for employees going through hardships. And Victoria, she started to change too. She still made tough business decisions, but now she considered the human cost. She started asking herself what Marcus would do. They became unlikely friends, bonded by the lesson that had changed them both. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is choose grace when the world gives us every reason to choose bitterness. Marcus could have walked out of that office angry, defeated, resentful. Instead, he chose gratitude, and that choice created ripples that changed not just his life but the lives of thousands of employees who now worked for a company that valued their humanity. Victoria learned that strength and kindness aren't opposites, they're partners. And Emma, she learned that her dad's quiet resilience, his gentle heart, those weren't just admirable qualities, they were superpowers. The next time life tests you, remember Marcus. Remember that how we treat people in our darkest moments reveals who we truly are. Choose kindness, choose grace, choose gratitude, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because you never know who's watching, who's learning, whose life you might change forever with a simple act of human decency. If this story touched your heart, share your own experiences with kindness in the comments. We'd love to hear how grace has transformed your life. Because these stories, they remind us that we're all connected, all capable of changing the world one kind choice at a time.